resident loyalist who likes
Yellow.
all of the loyalists except Ultramarines, basically.
That's not true.
Yeah, you don't like the Iron Hands.
I was about to say that.
I think they're better than the Dangles and the Blangles, but that is my
I
opinion.
disagree entirely, but yeah.
Yeah, because you love your Dark Angels.
I just think they're
Dark
genuinely
Angels.
better.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell is a dangle and a blangle?
It's one of those ones where I agree with both sides.
Have to walk on eggshells around the Demon Collabo for
I love
YouTube
it, and then you
purposes.
just start blatantly saying it.
I mean, that was the nicest way that I could think of saying it.
Yeah, sure. I love it how we disinfected your Ultramarine episode with the Demon Collabo.
Pigeons. Pigeon talk. Welcome to Pigeon talk.
I made one fucking joke about pigeons, and you've carried it on.
I know.
Ever since the beginning, when we had like 10 subscribers.
It is our 1 year anniversary video.
Do an episode.
We're
on
gonna
pigeons.
change our artwork to just us with pigeon heads
Why?
It's more work for you to do.
I hate you.
because pigeons have feelings.
Pigeon
Apparently.
talk.
And welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please hit that like and subscribe. You know the usual crap. Today we are going to be talking about Papa Smurf's Blue Boys, Blueberries.
Yes. I, Cato Sicarius, will be leading us down this magnificent path of the best Space Marine Legion.
I love it how you were like looking me in the eyes when you said that. That was very intense.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Yeah. So, Ultramarines.
Blue boys.
As we all remember, we just did our Gilliman episode, so I would recommend watching that first before you join into the Ultramarines, because as we feed out, the Primarch sort of informs how the rest of the Legion's going to go, or at least has a big impact on it. So watch the Gilliman episode first, and then you move over to this one.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't watched any of our other videos, if this is your first introduction to us,
Then thank
I
you.
am Corbin,
I'm James.
I'm Blake.
and
I know nothing. I am the noob.
yeah, James,
teaching-
we're teaching James about 40k. I have already converted him over to our heresy, and Blake is our resident loyalist who likes
Yellow.
all of the loyalists except Ultramarines, basically.
That's not true.
Yeah, you don't like the Iron Hands.
I was about to say that. You beat me to it. Yeah.
If you watched our tier episode, you know what our thoughts are on the Iron Hands and what's the other one? Iron Hands and
Iron Warriors.
Iron Warriors. Anything iron. Anything.
It's like the one thing that Blake and I agree on.
Anything iron is cringe.
Actually, no, we both agree that the Imperial Fist is pretty cool.
Yeah, cheers for that. And Death Guard.
Death Guard are pretty cool.
So, anyways, but this is going to be the Ultramarine episode where we're going to talk about Pup Smurfs Boys.
Yes.
So, what have we not covered in the Gilliman episode?
Well, because we have decided to do our Primarch episodes before we do the Legions, because the Legions are so heavily influenced by their daddies. Like,
You just laughed way too much at saying daddies.
I didn't laugh at all.
No, I saw the smirk.
Yeah. Ultramarines' main, like, what are they do? Their core phrase. They have like two
Catchphrase.
That catchphrase that we'll talk about. Courage and honor, which is one of my favorites, and I said it a lot in the Gilliman episode. And the other is theoretical, practical.
I was waiting for you to say it, because if you didn't, I was going to.
And we're going to talk about that later in the episode. They get a lot of undeserved hate, in my opinion, because they are the poster boys, as we talked about also in the Gilliman episode.
I'd say it's deserved, but that's not their fault. It's the oversaturation from Games Workshop.
They're the mid army. The defaults.
I love it how I said that like as a genuine phrase, and now you're just using it to piss off Corbin.
I mean, it's true. They are default.
I
Like,
think they're better than the Dangles and the Blangles, but that is my
I
opinion.
disagree entirely, but yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know
because
who
you
they
love
are.
your Dark Angels.
I just think they're
Dark
genuinely
Angels.
better.
Yeah,
it's like, what the hell is a dangle and a blangle?
a Dark Angel and a Blood Angel.
Oh,
That's what the fans are called, the Blangles and the Dangles.
gotcha.
It's more so what the people who aren't fans of them call them.
Yeah. Nah, I'm a Dangle. I'll say it.
Good lord.
I'm also partial to being a Blangle.
All right, getting into the episode though. After the Horus Heresy, the Legion had a lot of guilt and felt like they really needed to make amends for failing to make it to the Siege of Terra.
I would say most of the Loyalist chapters felt that way, because Imperial Fist felt like they failed because they were protecting it. Blood Angels felt like they failed massively because they couldn't protect their Primarch. Lehman Russ, Dark Angels, Ultramarines, they, of course, Korax probably as well, probably felt that they didn't get there on time, so there was a lot of guilt. The White Scars were the ones like, yeah, we did it.
I think the ones who got hit with it the most are probably the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines.
And Imperial
because,
Fist, I would
well,
say.
the Blood Angels kind of got there at the end, but the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines were, even though they didn't know better, were setting up a second Imperium in the Ultramar system while all this shit is going down.
Yeah, so
so they're like, oh,
they were already
if we
preparing
hadn't
for the
been
worst.
doing that and had entered the Ruin Storm earlier,
Yeah.
we could have been there to do it. So, like, the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines kind of have the worst guilt from the heresy.
I would disagree, because I would say Imperial Fist do, because they were the ones that were meant to protect the system. And it was so bad to the point that Dawn's darkness, Dawn's own depression and grief, got transferred into the successor chapters. And then we'll get into that in their own episode. But like, I
mean,
felt,
that they did for, like, the other ones as well.
no, yeah.
Ultramarines and stuff. A lot of second foundings are very, like...
Emo.
Yeah, they're like,
Listen
our
to
failings
Panic at
of
the
our
Disco.
fathers are not our own. Like,
but is it
let
a
us
medical
prove
condition?
ourselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, but is it a medical condition?
Anyway,
Anyways, yeah, continuing.
so they were the largest legion during the Great Crusade and had around about 250,000 Space Marines.
With the word bearers being close behind at about 200.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say they must be the big one, or if not the biggest, one of the biggest.
Oh yeah,
there's-
heaps bigger than a lot of the others.
There's lots of rumors as well, because you know about the missing Primarchs, the two missing Primarchs.
Oh yeah, the ones that.
There's a big theory, and I think it's also mentioned in one of the books as well, that when they had to take down one of the Primarchs, one of the lost Primarchs for whatever reason, that Space Marine Legion got absorbed into the Ultramarines, which is another reason why they're so
okay.
big.
Yeah. Okay, so they did.
I think it is mentioned in First Heretic, if I remember correctly. So you know one of the missing Primarchs and how their Space Marine Legions have
Yes.
been mentioned to have been absorbed into the Ultramarines?
Yes, yeah, I think that was in the First Heretic.
First Heretic, yeah, I couldn't remember which book.
One
but
of the legion of the two missing is theorized to have been swallowed by the Ultramarines.
I think it was the second one, the second last
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Whichever one because the other one was rumored to have been wiped out completely by the Space Wolves.
Yeah, because it was Horus, Lehman Russ, and then it was the missing one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was one that was a heretic and one that was.
There is. That's the reason why GW created them.
Okay.
But we don't know the reason as to why they've been wiped out.
Got you.
Yeah. And the Codex Astartes is the Bible for the Ultramarines.
I love how you just said that. And my own spirits just went down. Like,
Well, I mean, what do you guys actually know? We'll start with James, because Blake obviously knows more. What do you actually know about the Codex Astartes?
Isn't that the book that all the is it Imperial or whatever the good guys that they all follow? Like it's not the.
the Codex Astartes does not support this action.
Yeah, it's not the one. There's another.
I am looking forward to it.
There's another.
It's not the Divinio Divinio Lectorum?
Lectagius.
Isn't that the one that is like
Lectasis.
what like a marine is? Like there's one that's there's one that what a marine is, and then there's one that's like how a marine should act. Essentially,
No,
it's like
that's the same book.
One is like
One's the
Emperor is a
Bible.
god, and the other one is like, this is what a Space Marine should be. This is how you should structure your chapters.
Oh, yeah,
The
that's what I mean.
Letitia
Yeah, so-
Divinitatis. When you don't think about it, you can
Yeah,
say
like-
it.
yeah.
The Letitia Divinitatis is basically the Bible of the Emperor, and then the Codex Astartes is about like how to for Space Marines.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the how to book.
Yeah.
And then like the Bible of like you should listen to.
It's like
But essentially,
how to be a
all I
Space
know,
Marine for dummies.
Yeah.
yeah, basically all I know about it is that it was basically how the Ultramarines were set up in the Great Crusade, like in the companies and divisions and such.
No, the Codex Astartes only happened after the Horus Heresy.
No. But like they had that formula of how the companies were set up, and then they translated into the Codex Astartes.
Because they had 250,000, they did have chapters in the Great Crusade.
That's what I mean.
But the chapters were 10,000, not 1,000.
Yeah.
And it was more so to like create a structure because they had so many like
So
Space
many,
Marines.
yeah.
So-
that did transfer a little bit into the Codex Astartes.
That's what I
But
mean,
the
yeah.
Codex Astartes not only tells you how you should structure your legion and keep them in like smaller chapters, so that no one person has enough power to cause another heresy.
Yep.
But it also details how each should be regimented and structured in their
And how to conduct war, basically.
yeah, but also how their each chapter has their different things within the chapters.
The
So you have-
hierarchies.
was it?
The hierarchies.
The hierarchies, and also like they name them slightly different. Like the Night Lords had they were traders at this point, but like you have like
First company.
company is your veterans.
Yeah.
Your second company is like blah 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 blah. How they all break that all down.
Okay.
And also
So it is a hierarchy thing, but it's also like, okay, we'll use like the firstborn, and then we've got like the secondborn, like the second.
Well, first company is like veterans and terminators, for example, in a codex compliant
Yes.
chapter, and then the second is like reactionaries, I believe, and then just guessing, and it also depends on the chapter.
Yeah.
And then there's one company that's going to be more tank heavy, and then there's one that's going to be more like scout heavy.
Well, yeah, third to fifth are what was
the
it? I
chuff,
can't
essentially.
remember. Yeah, but and then from fifth onwards are often the ones that like defend the world, recruit new aspirants and things like that.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay.
called in and
Yeah.
special things. But then there's also like in the Ultramarines, I think it was the third and the fifth were specialized to fight against the Tyranids after the Tyranids showed up, kind of thing.
And then the 10th company, usually in most chapters, is where the aspirants go, where they learn to be scouts and snipers.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yep.
and then they end up being disseminated to the rest of the companies.
Then they
Yeah.
come back. Yeah.
But basically, from what I know, is that the Codex Astartes was originally implemented to try and dilute the power, so that way that nobody has another Horus Heresy. That some half Primarchs agreed, the little loyalist ones at least, and then the other half disagreed, like mainly Dawn, Vulcan, and Ferrus.
Lehman Russ, yeah.
I always go to say Ferrus Manus, and I know that's not fair because it's like feral.
Feral,
and then-
yeah.
Yeah, that's where I go for it.
But the other part of the Codex Astartes is Gilliman imparting his tactical knowledge. So it's like, in this kind of scenario, how could you go about it? How can you improve yourself as a space marine? You think about theoretical situations you might come across, even if they're completely unlikely, and try to think of ways that you could combat that or get around that. Think about your past failings. What could you have done differently?
Better to-
How can you make yourself a better space marine?
Or the most effective reaction is this course taken, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's basically like his inner thinking of how a space marine should.
And
most
also
likely-
history lessons, because it's like, oh well, this happened in this space fleet battle, and
This
how
is what
could
they
you?
did and
And
they
this is
lost,
what we
or-
did, and this like had minimal casualties because we took a different route. We decided to go instead of a head-front assault, we waited around the moon for them to come past and
then
blasted the shit out of them, or
from
something like
behind or
that.
something, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more than just like how to be a space marine. It's how to be the best kind of space marine according to Rabute.
They got him with the back shots.
most of them are most chapters are Codex compliant, and then there are others that can wipe their ass with it.
Yeah, including the Black Templars.
Yep, and the Space Wolves a little
Space Wolves are a bit like, nah, screw you.
To a degree,
But yeah, Dawn also said, nah, screw you. And
The
then
main
Gilliman set the whole Imperial Navy against him.
bit. Dawn didn't want to go with the Codex because he felt like that this was like a punishment for him failing on Terra, and that diluting his current strength, depleted strength already, and dividing them into 1,000-man strong chapters is just an insult. And Lehman Russ and Vulcan agreed for similar reasons that it's better. Like Lehman probably agreed that it's better that we stay strong together, and then Vulcan, having lost so many of his salamanders at the Isfan massacre, he's just like, I don't want to lose any more of my boys.
Yeah.
Like that's probably their reasoning. And then Jagatai Khan and Quavus Corax agreed with Gilliman.
They
for
were
their
like,
own
no,
reasons.
this is a really good idea.
Good idea.
Because
Yeah,
no one
bec-
should have the
yeah.
power to be able to command. Like, we don't need another War Master.
It's one of those
Nobody
things
should
where-
command over all those.
It's one of those ones where I agree with both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, in theory, it makes sense,
Hmm.
but it feels like a retroactive, like, band-aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
as
Kind
we
of
come to
thing.
find out, I feel like it actually kind of hindered the growth of the Imperium over the 10,000 years, because when you dilute the power, you're diluting the power, and therefore you're diluting the command structure. And because of that, the chapters were just sent off to go do their own thing.
Yeah.
And there was no figurehead to lead the Imperium.
But it was a good narrative aspect.
Oh,
and
narrative, yeah.
on a meta level, it was brought in because they scrapped the 2 hidden Primarchs. And then they were like, oh, now we have all of these successor chapters that you can make your own. And so we got really awesome lore, like the Carcharodons,
It makes
the
sense.
Minotaurs, and it fitted really well with the narrative, and like...
Lamenters, Steel Crows.
Lamenters, like so many like sick successor chapters that we now have, and gives you the freedom to paint however you want and make it a founding.
And there's fandom wikis where I'm on now at the moment with my Steel Crows. You can just like do whatever you want and write up whatever you want, as long as it's like, you know...
Damn, you're really
compliant.
pushing your Steel Crows.
Yeah, man. I love them. I love them. That's why they're my Vanguard on Space Marine 2. But yeah, make your own.
We
Which
should
is sick.
we should talk more about the successor chapters because I feel like we've only really talked about the main chapters. Like,
Yeah, but you kind of
It's-
have to
it's-
understand the main, like,
To go-
18 to then further into...
You nearly said 20, didn't you?
I almost said 20. But yeah,
Well, technically there's 20 and there's just 2 that are...
Dead.
there was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's now less than 18 Primarchs, but there's still 18, like, original...
Legions that were disseminated
Original chapters, yeah.
Well, 9. Because the other 9 went off to be traders.
They're still original chapters.
Legions. They're not chapters.
No, not really.
It's the difference between, like, you know, if sometimes I will say Legion and sometimes I'll say chapter, and there is actually meant like a lore difference, a technical difference, but I'm just like, I don't fucking care anymore.
I do often find it difficult to go, like, I don't know
The best way
word,
to think
so
of it as,
good guys and bad guys.
the best way to think of it is
Or heretics.
legions before Horus Heresy, like, well, during, like, before all that, and then chapters afterwards.
Except for the traitor
Chaos.
legions.
Except for
Yeah.
Chaos, which are still legions.
Yeah. And Black Legion.
And they
obviously.
they also have a good way of, like, making your own, like, quote unquote
Successor
chapter.
chapters, yeah.
But in Chaos by making your own warband.
Yeah.
I have to
Anyways,
make
continue on with the Ultramarines.
But yes, after that's the basis of the Codex Astartes. The Ultramarines believe that deviation from the Codex Astartes is tantamount to heresy.
So it is very like the Codex Astartes is
It
very,
did.
You
It
must
wasn't meant.
follow it.
It
It's
wasn't
very
meant to be
religious-based.
religious in nature, but obviously over 10,000 years,
It's become
it's been
religious.
infused with it.
It's like if the Bible was actually written by Jesus.
Yeah, and then you deviate from
instead
it.
of-
That is heresy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Blasphemy.
Heresy.
A
Yep.
lot of Ultramarines, I would say almost all of them, follow it to the letter. Like this is
Yeah.
this goes against the Codex Astartes. We cannot do this, or we cannot
But
fight
in
this
the
way.
Codex Astartes, Gilliman even says, if you have a better tactical idea of how to minimize losses and accomplish the goal that goes against the Codex Astartes, do it.
do it.
Yeah.
Because human life and Space Marine life is more important than following my book.
Then a book.
And also,
Yep.
the book could be wrong for your exact situation.
Yep.
Yeah, which is why he
Yeah.
teaches you to think like logically.
Critically
about it.
think, yeah.
Yeah. So as we mentioned in the Reboot episode 2, they were originally called the Warborn due to early liberations in the solar system in the Unification Wars.
So a lot of the legions before they were given to their Primarchs all came from different parts of Terra.
Yeah.
So for example, like some were taken from this area, some were taken from that area, from this country and that country, and that also informed their culture a little bit.
So in the very beginning of the Unification Wars, when the Emperor was taking over Terra and Luna,
Uniting Terra. Uniting.
they were one of the 3 Space Marine legions that took part in the first pacification of Luna, which was the very first war in the unification process.
Because there were people that were living on the
Benid
moon that
first
weren't happy
became
with
when he first became a tyrant.
Yeah.
It was Dark Angels, Ultramarines, and there was another one that I'm forgetting.
But they weren't called that yet, yeah.
Obviously, you know what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all very early,
This is before the,
before a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they were given numbers at this point.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And their gene seed of the Ultramarines has no genetic mutations and high adaptability, which means that they have a really high implant rate and they don't deteriorate. They don't have genetic mutations like the Thousand Suns, which cause them to have like the flesh change or anything like that. The Space Wolves have the Wolfen gene like mutation where they turn into werewolves.
For example, if you were to become part of the Raven Guard, picture the way you look now as a Space Marine. If you got implanted with the gene seed passed down from Corvus Corax, your skin would start going alabaster white, and your eyes would start going black and adjusting to nighttime, night vision.
Oh, right.
You will bodily change towards a visage of what your Primarch was. If you are a Blood Angel, for example, and you get Gene Seed, you might have blonde hair, or you might get more blood. I don't know.
You get the pointy teeth.
I was about to say
and
you
the
get the
thirst for
teeth.
blood.
Yeah. With Imperial Fists and Dawn, two of their organs don't work. Like the two, it's the Sussem membrane, the one that suspends them in an
Oh,
animation.
the sussy one.
Yeah, and the acid spit one. They don't get that.
Yeah, whereas there's no genetic mutations in the gene seed of the Ultramarines.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Because they are
They're
Default.
perfect.
Default, yeah.
Perfect.
So they're sort of like
factory settings.
So it would be the same as like the salamanders, like
You will get
They
blackened skin. You'll get red eyes that you can see through thermal heat, and your skin will be thicker too. And you also grow taller too than other Space Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, so the home system of the Ultramarines is Ultramar, is a small stellar empire of 500 worlds.
A small.
Small, but, well, I mean, it's the largest one. And they are the only legion that has a home base that is a stellar system instead of just a single planet.
Yeah.
So they have this 500 world war machine pumping out aspirants to send off to the Ultramarines, which is why they always kept high levels of stock of Space Marines.
Yeah, so not even just taking over from one of the lost Primarchs and absorbing them in, but they also had a larger revenue of planets to collect from.
Because Gilliman did such a good job before Empress found them.
Yeah.
The Ultramarines are all pragmatic tacticians, like their father. They encourage posing theoretical situations or problems to develop courses of action or solutions to possible problems.
When you start reading the books as well, and the Ultramarine characters, and you'll notice a lot as well, they'll say like, theoretical, we have to do it this way because of this. Practical, we can actually do that. Like, they'll theorize about it, and then they'll try and see if they can apply it practically. It's like, it's so pragmatic.
Yeah. So that, just touching on that, because I had that a little bit further, but basically there are two strategic concepts. The practical, which is about discipline, skill, courage, flexibility, and the final results. And the theoretical concept is the analysis, the assessment, the precedent, and the planning.
Yeah. So they don't just like think of something and go, well, let's just wing it and try and see how it goes. They'll put it into practice and then they'll actually go and do it.
Or they'll break down like how they got to that stage, what they could do at that stage, what other things like it might impact it, what unforeseen circumstances might come in, and then they'll come up with different practical solutions to face off against each one of those issues based off what they should do.
It's so that they don't get surprised essentially by the sounds of it. Like
and so they can think of the best solution to a problem. They're
and
very,
if something
very
does
analytical.
happen, then you can go, okay,
Whereas-
well, we saw this coming.
Yeah.
Whereas the exact opposite, Space Wolves run straight in, don't think about it.
Just run.
Yeah, they just howl and run.
Run and gun.
So maybe sometimes on all fours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then World Eaters are the same. They don't think about things. They're not analytical.
I'm talking about like in terms of like Codex Astartes. Like,
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't say world eaters.
So, one thing that even you may not know about, Blake, are the Death Oaths. Do you know about the Death Oaths?
It rings a bell. Continue.
So, the Ultramarines, if you do something naughty, like going against the Codex Astartes blatantly, you get sent with a Death Oath, which you get exiled by yourself from the chapter and go on a suicidal mission into the Eye of Terror to kill as much chaos as you can in redemption.
I do know of them because Demon Kalaba.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what? So they don't come back.
So if you fail your brothers, or you do something that, like, breaks Codex Astartes...
Or you broke hierarchy or
Or,
something.
yeah, you punch your captain.
You
'cause
broke the rules.
Yeah, you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do my own thing or whatever. They'll be like, go into the Eye of Terror by yourself, kill as many demons as you can, and die while doing it.
Yeah, don't come back.
Or
Yeah.
they'll give like something specific, like, go here and protect this world for so many years. Or go do this. And if you do it, then maybe you get to come back. Maybe.
Yeah, and more often than not,
More
though,
often than
it
not,
is
they
a-
die, yeah. That's
The,
why it's called a death oath.
the death oath is
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
you're supposed to die.
Yeah.
The only person who actually came back from one, I think, is the Demon Collabo one, and
Hmm.
that's because he had very vital information to give.
Yeah. You also don't know much about that, but
No, I've never heard of.
it is the most cursed thing about Warhammer.
It's how demons are birthed, basically.
Oh,
No, it's how they were trying to create Space Marines.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They were
Yeah.
trying to create Chaos
I know,
Space
you
Marines by, like...
blanked it out of your mind deliberately
Yeah.
because you didn't want to remember it.
I don't
That's
want to
okay.
remember it because it's really, really cringe.
Yeah.
They basically tried to go as edgy as possible. It's like, oh,
So they're
yeah, let's
edgelords.
take...
Yeah,
fun times.
yeah, let's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just an
like
average day
we
in
have
American
to walk
college.
have to walk on eggshells around the Demon Collabo for
I love
YouTube
it, and then you just
purposes.
start blatantly saying it.
I mean, that was the nicest way that I could think of saying it.
Yeah, sure.
Inflated isn't.
There's
Anyway,
there's
anyway,
a kink about that.
I know there is.
it's very Vor. Anyway,
I love it how we disinfected your Ultramarine episode with the Demon Collabo.
oh, well, I mean, it was an Ultramarine that found it during a death oath, so I guess it's kind
So
of.
definitely don't Google that.
Don't. No.
Just
The first
like,
image sucks.
just like the rose.
Hey kids, do you like violence?
Yeah, yeah.
Influenced by the culture that Gilliman built around Ultramar, the Ultramarines are constantly striving for the common good and work closely with humans, much closer than like a lot of the other Space Marine legions do. So like, other legions look down at humans and they're like inferior, or like I wouldn't deal with it. The Ultramarines have a lot to do with like the Imperial Navy, the Guard. They work closely with like humans on planets and like governors.
The
To-
guard, are you talking like the Imperial Guard?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas other legions would be like, out of the way, human, Space Marine coming through, like, we're your betters, we don't care about you, but you might even see in Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
The Ultramarines give a shit about the average human.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that was something that did surprise me, because I didn't play a lot of Space Marine 1, so I didn't really get that far into it, but yeah, I was surprised that,
game-
like, the Ultramarines do talk to, like...
I would say it's the baseline that they do. Like, Space Marines do care about civilians,
Yeah.
but if it gets to a point where it's no longer a strategic advantage, most of them will bail. But that is the default. It's only certain, like, chapters, like Black Templars, Dark Angels, where they...
Grey Knights.
Grey Knights, where they prioritize killing the enemies more than saving. It's like Oath of Vengeance Paladin in D&D. They care more about killing the enemy as opposed to saving
I mean,
the people,
Iron Hands
because
do
that's
too.
the worst. Because that demon, for example, could kill more people than I would save.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, but like, Iron Hands also don't really give a shit about
No,
the
that's
human
a
population.
different thing. They because they believe the flesh is weak. That's
Yeah.
a different perspective.
Yeah.
But then also, like, Blood Angels, it's not like their core thing.
No, it's not their thought.
And like Dark Angels really don't give a shit about human population.
No, they
But like the White Scars do, the Salamanders do, the Ultramarines do, the Imperial Fists do.
Yeah.
I would say to a less degree than some of the others.
Oh,
Like
yeah, but they
definitely
still care.
Salamanders and Ultramarines, and the White Scars do too.
I would say Imperial Fists and Ultramarine are sort of on the same tier, but in terms of defending a place, if they're defending the walls, defending the greater population,
Yeah.
is more important than catering to that smaller amount of people. For
Yeah.
example, it's like the whole training car debate.
Yeah, there's a really interesting story actually, where an Inquisitor goes to one of the worlds in Ultramar, and like lands there, and the governor and the population aren't afraid of the Inquisition and welcome them and know about them because they've heard about them from the Ultramarines. They know what's going on, and the Inquisitor's like, "This is the only world that I've been to that acts like they have nothing to hide and isn't afraid of us." Because like he turns up with a bunch of Space Marines and they're like, "Space Marines are the best.
Yeah.
Ultramarines have always been nice to us." They're like, not afraid,
Not
to
afraid
see
of
a
them.
Space Marine, whereas other worlds that have been conquered by other Space Marines, like say the Dark Angels, the humans would be cowering in fear around the buildings because how dare you even get close to
Because
you
the
might
last
hear
time
one of
they-
their secrets and get decapitated by
Yeah.
accident.
And then there are some planets where they literally go into a goddamn frenzy of riots, at the mere mention that an inquisitor is coming to investigate the planet.
Because
and
of the
sometimes
corruption in the
Inquisition,
world,
and
yeah.
sometimes the Inquisition will do that. They will send out those messages like an inquisitor is coming. Inquisitor's not coming, but now you're in line because you think he's coming.
Yeah. The Inquisitors can be kind of fucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to finish you off with the Ultramarines, the last thing I have is about their recruitment rights and trials. So there aren't...
I am curious about this because I don't know anything about them.
Well, there's a good reason for that, because there are no specific recruitment rights or trials known, except for 2 general trials, which are the exposure trial and the challenge trial, which you probably already know about.
Yeah, which is what all the other...
They're
Marines
like
chapters
they're
do.
like the base. There is no extra above and beyond trials that are talked about. No one tells you what, like, it's not written about in any books. No one knows what all the trials for Ultramarines are.
There is actually one challenge that the Ultramarines have to do that's different than everybody else.
No, well,
No, they have to learn how to use Excel. Gotcha.
I was going to
You're
say,
a dick.
is it like similar to like the Space Wolves where when they were born, they have to go out and... Is it the Space Wolves where they have to go out and they have to
In the ice.
hunt? Yeah, in the ice.
Yeah.
Space Wolves do that, but usually you're like aspirant age, which is like 13, 12 kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
You're not babies.
I think,
you're
like,
not babies like, hell, go out there.
No, it's like 8 to 12.
So this isn't like
yeah.
a trials like that. This is
Well,
like...
there are 2 trials that are known about. Are the exposure trial, where they send them out at that age, the aspirant age, 8 to 12, into the wilderness to survive on a death world. They're not really expected to survive. They're graded on their failure. But if they're graded well enough and they've survived well enough or for long enough before they, like, die,
Like if they gave it a good go.
yeah, the apothecaries will go down and save them. And, like,
I was
pull
going to
them
say,
back.
but they're dead. Like, so how
No,
are
no,
they...
no. They'll be like poisoned, for
Just
example, or they'll be
before they
like,
die.
or all their bones will be broken. So
Because they'll be watching them.
it's one of those
Yeah.
challenges where you're not expected to pass.
Yes. And you're not expected to pass the challenge trial either, which, as a normal human, you engage in a duel with a fully fledged battle brother.
You have
No
to take
one
on actions.
ever wins, but how well you do, and specifically for the Ultramarines, how well you adapt to fighting a Space Marine
is what they're looking
is
for.
what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, like,
Right.
you're not going to beat him, but if you can last more than 30 seconds, you've done really well.
Got you.
And it's these kind of challenges and everything like that where when you create your own custom chapter, for example, and I'm bringing it back to Steel Crows, but like with
Steel.
with
Caw!
That's where the pigeons come from.
No, because I read about those challenges and I made mine.
Blake is a bird fetish.
I don't actually have a bird fetish, no. But like
I like
because
that he says, I don't actually have a bird fetish. As if there's
actually
like...
I just like the beaks, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's I made it like that they had to-
Cloacas?
fucking shut up. I made it so that they had to hide from other Space Marines because they're very stealth based, and I think the Raven Guard have something similar if I remember right.
I wondered why there was birdseed all around your bed.
There wasn't. I don't have birds.
The early bird gets the worm.
We can't make bird puns. You might get horny.
Get a bit.
If you were gonna do it, at least say Corty.
No. He's gonna get his pecker up.
Oh,
There we go. Yeah, now you're thinking.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking with your noggin.
he's gonna be erect. No, that ruined it. Okay.
Yeah, that did right.
That joke had no wings.
Didn't fly.
Anyway, so yeah, the challenges.
Yes, so those are the 2 challenges that we know about with the Ultramarines. Nothing else is talked about. They've got no specifics that are known to us from that.
Yeah. So as far as I know, like with the aesthetics of the Ultramarines, they have a very Greco-Roman with a flair of French in there, with the whole conquering aspect, like with the Gaul campaigns in Rome and everything like that.
Where's
So-
the French aspect? I don't see it.
Oh, with the laurels.
Didn't the French like?
That's Greco-Roman.
Yeah, no, it's Greco-Roman, but like I'm also tying it to like Julius Caesar in that term because how
Who also wasn't French.
he conquered Gaul, which is France.
Yes, he conquered them.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, didn't France like wave the white flag? Didn't they surrender in all the most battles? And
Maybe we should actually have a history channel as well, mate.
I don't know. I didn't listen to history.
Le Grand Weird.
No, I don't know why. I think it's just because in the
How do you say pigeon in French?
Pigeon.
Caca.
Pigeon. No, I think it's maybe in the flair. Maybe maybe it's because I'm tying it with like Napoleon.
I was gonna say, are you talking like Napoleon? Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm
You're
thinking
mixing a lot of times.
Admittedly, no, but admittedly, so do the Ultramarines. They take a lot from everything.
Yeah. But, yeah, I definitely see what you mean with the Greco-Roman. It is very much their aesthetic. They've got, like, the golden...
It's Rome, but everything good about it.
Yeah, yeah. And, like, Macragge and the Ultramar system before Guilliman was very much like Caesar ruling class. You had the poor in the street that were kept, like, entertained by fights in the Colosseums, and you had, like, the wealthy elite that just had big orgies filled with wines, like wine and grapes and young boys.
sounds a bit Diddy.
Very Diddy.
Did he do it?
The Didlo.
Yeah, and
That's gonna age.
Grand
this episode.
Corbeau. Grand Corbeau.
what's that?
Corvus Corax is the raven in French.
Oh yeah. I love how you just started saying shit to us, and like you expected me to know what that is because
Oh no, I could tell.
French,
I could tell that you were like going on Google Translate.
I was definitely going on Google Translate. Anyway, yeah, so
but
that's
yeah.
what I have for the Ultramarines.
I know you went in the last episode a little bit about why you like the Ultramarines, but like what initially like drew you to? Because it's like we were saying like last time when someone says, "Oh yeah, Iron Hands are my favorite," and I'm like, well, why? It's like so when you say Ultramarines,
Have you
and
ever
you've got so
come
many
across
Ultramarines?
someone that said that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Yeah.
That one person.
yeah.
They're not
that's-
alive anymore, but
Yeah, that's like, that's like the
we
one
ended
fan.
them and then that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, like for example, when you've got so many units that are like painted Ultramarines, I'm just curious why. Like, what drew you to them?
So initially, really love a blue and gold mix.
I was gonna say you like the color blue.
I like the color.
Good
The royal blue with the gold trim, lovely. I love Rabute, as I mentioned in his episode, but also I like the idea of fighting a war with your mind and them being more than just warriors. Because Guilliman wanted them to be governors. And like that care for the people and like just the like humanity, like the human side of a space marine, which you get in some of the really good books. Like you see in a lot of the Horus Heresy books where they give like especially the Horus Heresy books, like a real human side and like a relatable side to the Space Marines. And on top of that, they have a lot of really sick characters that I just related to really well. Some really sick characters that don't even have much lore, like Manius Calgar.
He's got some lore.
He's got 2 stories. They're not books. They're just
really?
stories.
I thought he was... The way that he's like portrayed in Space Marine 2.
No, he mainly has excerpts from codexes.
Oh,
Yeah.
He doesn't have books about him.
You'll come
Really?
to find that a lot of characters are like that, where they've only got stories about them. There's
Yeah.
there's no actual books.
So he seems like even like his mini, like looking at it after the game.
Yeah.
But like, he seems like he has like. You would think that he would have.
He's got main
story.
character energy.
Actually, I think he has like.
Doesn't he have the
a
Tyranid-
couple of like
Doesn't he have the Tyranid
graphic
book?
novels?
Yeah, he's got the graphic novel about his upbringing.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Is
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got the comics.
But
Like,
aside from that,
so
that's
he's
it.
got, apart from the graphic novels and the like mentions in White Dwarf and the codexes, there's nothing else about him.
I think that's the first Tyranid War book, isn't there? Where they try and take over Macragge.
I think he's barely in that. He's also just barely in the like Dark Imperium book at the beginning, the first Dark Imperium.
it's so
book.
random.
We'll have to
that
look
they've-
into it. Well, he'll get his own episode, obviously.
Yeah, because Guilliman rocks up in the first Dark Imperium book and he's like, "You did pretty well, Calgar, but why didn't you do better with these?
Yeah.
You done fucked up, son.
'Cause
I'm
it's-
back."
It sounds like yeah, you would think that with all the, like even in the
With
game,
all the love the Ultramarines get.
yeah, like you would think that he would have more of a story. Like,
Welcome to Warhammer.
I mean, he's not the majority, but he's a huge part of the game. Like
Yeah.
the first game. What I know of in the first game, but he's also got a huge part in the second game. But then
he
he's
doesn't turn up in the first one, just so you know.
Doesn't he turn up?
Manus Calgar doesn't turn up in the
I
first
thought
one
he was
at all.
in the end.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I haven't finished the first one. So
but he was
He's
also
definitely in
only
the
chapter
second one.
master for like I think it was like 150 years he was chapter master of the Ultramarines.
I think he's a couple of 100 years old, but he's only been chapter master for the recent 40k canon.
Yeah, because they've had so many chapter masters. I think there's like
Yeah.
10 named chapter masters since like Gilliman went into his stasis sleep.
Which is interesting because that's 1,000 years each.
Yeah, well,
Because
no,
there's
there's
10.
more than those 10.
I know,
it's
I know,
just
yeah.
they're the only 10 that are named in stories.
It's the same thing, yeah. So there's been like countless of chapter masters in that 10,000
Oh no,
year
it's
span.
just like being that there's like whole comic book series about him.
I see what
There's,
you mean
like,
as well, because
whole, like-
these blue boys get so much love and representation. Their leader must have so much. No,
Yeah.
Dante gets more than him. From
Oh,
Blood
yeah.
Angels gets more than him.
Yeah.
Like it's very surprising because I was gonna ask like who are like with the blue boys, like who are their most named like people, like,
Manius Calgar, Titus, and Kato Sicarius.
but I thought Titus was only for the video game and they've only just
No, he-
recently made him more involved in the 40k.
You asked for most well known. Those Titus is probably one of the most well known.
My favorite, though.
Yeah, but I didn't know that he was actually. I thought he was just for the game aspect.
Yeah.
And then they've just recently brought him into the
You're right.
table.
The,
Yeah,
the,
you
the
are.
problem is that the Warhammer games are canon, but also not canon. But now with Space Marine 2 coming in, they are like cemented as canon.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's what I mean.
but the
like,
problem is that that's also a lot of Warhammer lore. Is that a lot of it is canon, but also isn't. It's like that first animated shows of the Clone Wars.
oh,
It's
yeah,
canon, but not canon.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking. Like, if it wasn't for the games, like there would be no Titus. Like he was never in
No. Yeah, never.
Warhammer or anything like that. Like it was
Created
never.
purely for the game, but then the game just took off.
Yeah.
There are whole chapters, like successor chapters, like the Dawn of War chapter,
Blood Ravens.
Blood Ravens. They weren't a thing before the video
They
game.
were not canon until they've only been recently put in the Codex as official, and they also turn up at the end of the Space Marine game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They turn up at the end with the Black Templars to help you take on Chaos.
Yeah.
So who in the Blue Boys is like then, like okay, Titus more recently,
Yeah.
Manius Calgar,
Yep.
which is also sounds more recently as well.
No, he's been around for a while.
He's been
Oh, he
around
has.
since
Yeah.
like the first Tyranid boss.
He's just not very
Yeah.
like talked about. Like he's got like he's
think
He
been,
just doesn't have his own books.
yeah.
as far as we
really.
know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna double check.
Yeah. But my favorite is not the most well known like Space Marine, but he is the lieutenant right before the attack on Calth. He was caught theorizing about how a Space Marine would fight another Space Marine, and he was being like sanctioned for it.
Yep.
And so he had his mask painted red because that's how they would show that this guy had like done something wrong.
He'd been censored.
He'd been censored. And so he was waiting in like an armory room to speak to Rabute before the
To be
word bearers
chastised for thinking about fighting another Space Marine.
before the word bearers attacked on
And then fighting
Calth.
Space Marine with Space Marine.
And so that then led to every chapter painting their lieutenants' helmets red.
Or a different color, depending if they're like Blood Angels are yellow, I think, because they're already red.
Yeah.
Are they the ones that are all red, or have they got the stripe red down the
No,
middle?
No,
So-
all
so-
red.
Redhead is Sergeant.
Lieutenant.
No, Sergeant. And then the stripe is Lieutenant.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around, but yeah, maybe.
No. Because remember, Titus is a Lieutenant, and he's got the stripe.
Because
Yeah,
who's the
true.
guy? Who's the guy that was in Space Marine 2 that ends up dying? Like the guy that gets flamed.
He's a sergeant.
Yeah.
He was the sergeant.
Sergeants lead squads of 4 to 5, if I remember right.
Yeah, basically like a kill team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a squad. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, squad. But the funny thing is that to mention that,
Yeah.
to feed that back into with the redhead thing, the Ultramarines had taken that from the Night Lords. The Night Lords on Nostromo had a gang culture, had a gang tradition where if you were a fool or a traitor to the gang, you had to tattoo your hands red, and it was called Sinner's Red. And then when they became that translated into them being Space Marines, they painted their gauntlets red, so that way you knew that man was an indentured servant basically to the squad. That man's on a death oath basically. He's got to prove himself now because he has done something. He's either a fool
Something
or
wrong,
he's
yeah.
either a fool or a traitor. And then the Ultramarines took that and then used it on the helmets.
Did
instead.
they actually take it from there?
No, they
Because I'm
did.
pretty
It's
sure it
in the
came
book they
from the
mention it.
Craig culture.
No, in the book they mention it.
Oh, do they? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I thought that was interesting. I was like, yeah, they do the red thing as well, and ironically, they're blue too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then on their end, it's a good thing because it means you're a sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, from that one guy who was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is how you fight Space Marines. And they were like, oh, suddenly we're being attacked by other Space Marines. And it's like, well, I know how to do that because I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that he and that same Marine ends up going into Brabute Gilliman's personal armory, taking all of these artifact exotic weapons and then use them against the word bearers
yeah.
and the demons, and they're just like, well, because, and then when the captain's like, what the hell are you doing? What are those Gilliman's weapons? And he's like, yeah, but like these are weird enemies, so we need weird weapons.
Weird weapons.
and then when that captain finds out what that guy was being censored for about theorizing on how to take on other Space Marines, he's just like, if we live through this, he's getting promoted.
Yeah, it's a really good. It's a great part of the book, honestly.
It was ironically funny.
Yeah, no, it was really fantastic.
He's the one to lead us next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, he was the one who had foresight.
Foresight,
And
yeah.
Gilliman was like, this my boy.
It's
This
also-
is the kind of thing that I told you to think about.
It's also funny you mentioned something earlier that we haven't tapped on as well about Gilliman and how his foresight came into play, because when you remember the Thunder Warriors,
Yeah.
they were basically exterminated because they were essentially couldn't be anything past being a soldier. They were only built for wartime. So, and we obviously don't know the exact reason as to why, or the full in-depth story.
Biggie got bored with them.
No, sure, whatever. But then
I'm done with these toys. Time to make some new
But
ones.
Gilliman saw the use of making a weapon, like a soldier, being more than just that. So that's why he made the Ultramarines be basically mini governors. So that way these guys could lead a world if they needed to. So that way he had the foresight. Gilliman had the foresight to see of a world where there wasn't going to need Space Marines, so that these guys could be leaders, not just warriors.
Because if there was like one
That's a
left
big
behind,
big props to Gilliman,
yeah.
because the other legions did something similar. Like they had uses beyond wartime, but Gilliman was the one that deliberately was doing it.
But then you also see it like as a conflict in a lot of the other legions. Like in the Lunar Wolves, they're like, we are spears. This is not a situation that calls for spears. I don't know what to do.
yeah,
Like we are, and like the like some of them are like, well, we are a blunt force instrument, like a hammer. This is something that needs finesse.
Yeah.
We need a different legion to deal with that.
Yeah.
We
This
don't
is not
really
our
know
job.
how to deal with that.
Which is another reason why Gilliman was trying to make them so versatile. And
Yeah.
that was also, like, Space Marines know no fear. But the Lunar Wolves were, I would say, a bit afraid of what would happen because they were so close to finishing the Great Crusade and uniting the galaxy. They were like, what are we going to do? Are we just going to be pushed around by bureaucrats that are not our Primarch? Are we just
Yeah.
going to be pushed around by people that aren't soldiers? So that fear also fed into what created the Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
So, but that was not existent in Gilliman's Legion.
No.
So speaking of Ultramarines, since we're on the topic, so what would you say? So we spoke a little bit about it in the Gilliman episode, but if you wanted to learn more about Ultramarines, the Primarch book would still be the main one
I
to...
would say yes. Always start with the Primarch because the Primarch informs the Legion in the chapter. Wouldn't you say, Corbin?
Yeah, I would agree.
And then
you
the
know,
Dark Imperium books as well would be...
There are a bunch of like good books that have Ultramarine characters. If you're looking for an Ultramarine story, you're not going to have to look too far. There's a lot of them.
everyone, yeah.
There's more representation for like Cato Sicarius than there are for a whole other legions.
I was about to say, if you're looking for Ultramarine specific content that doesn't have the Primarch in it or isn't like directly involving him, go the Cato Sicarius Omnibus. Like I don't even like I said, they're not my favorite chapter, but I have the Cato Sicarius Omnibus, and I'm going to read it one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the best place to start for somebody who wants to know more about Ultramarines, especially in 40k. That's the only one I know about 40k wise, apart from Dark Imperium.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of good Horus Heresy books, like, but yeah, 40k. In the Dark Imperium books, you don't actually get to see a lot of actual, like, Ultramarines. It's
There's-
Jabute and like some guard.
There's the
and, like,
Avenging
a
Sun
couple,
book, I know that much, and that's got
Yeah.
Ultramarines in it, but like, they're there, you just gotta look.
The Tyranid books, like the one, I can't remember which book it is.
Is it
that's like the,
Leviathan?
Yeah,
So the-
Leviathan, there's a Leviathan book that just came out.
And Behemoth,
Yeah.
whichever book covers like the attack on with Behemoth. There's also
Oh, the one Attack on Macragge with Marnius Calgar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
The Marnius Calgar comic book is also a good way to go, but it's only online because they stopped publishing it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I had to pay big bucks to get the comics that I got.
I downloaded it for free. Haha.
I like physical.
I like
and I'm al-
touching it. I'm one of those
I'm
people.
also getting them graded.
That's good.
Blake only likes touching pigeons.
Yeah.
Caw.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. This has been a very cursed Ultramarines episode.
But ironically, good. Like I think we explored everything about them as on our current knowledge.
Without going into like the individual characters will get their own episodes. There's a lot of really cool stuff.
When we go through all the Space Marine chapters and legions, there are so many different like noted campaigns, crusades that they've all gone on. I could sit here all day and talk about their different campaigns, but that's not fun. You may as well just go to the wiki. We're not going to read that off.
Yeah.
Unless you want us to, then and pay us, and that's fine. But
But yeah, like Calth will get its own episode. Imperium Secundus will get its own episode.
40k Gilliman will
Yeah,
also.
Calgar will get his
Catus
own
Sicarius will get his own as well.
Maybe. Yeah,
Well,
no,
yeah.
he probably will. I'm just
With the amount of
kidding.
books he has, may as well, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm not pushing for it, but I'm just saying,
No,
you
yeah.
know, it could be interesting to deep dive him.
And if you want to learn about Space Marine 2, we have streamed a bunch of it, and we'll probably continue streaming more of it. So
When
you
we
can
get-
check that out on our channel.
When we get time, when we're not.
Yeah, we're gonna also do more videos. I'm
Uni
gonna
or-
try and do more specific videos on it as well, not just streams.
Yeah.
But yeah, like and subscribe. Please help us push up that algorithm. Thank you for being
Get
here
us
for
to
this whole way through.
1,000 subs.
Yeah.
That's our
Road to 1,000. Yeah,
That's our main goal at the moment.
yeah. Let's go with
Yeah.
that.
We're just over halfway.
And to finish it off,
Caca.
what's your favorite part of a bird? The cloaca?
The eyes. I like looking in the eyes.
Oh, Jesus.
You didn't think I'd lean into that, did you?
All right. Is that it?
Yeah, finish the fucking episode.
Please.
Bye.
For the glory of chaos!